Sportsman with Gareth McGuinness.
Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's been a tough and challenging week for Spurs fans, let me tell you that. But we've got an Arsenal fan on the night to bring some balance on. Maybe put me in my place. So you, but great to have you back on the show, Stefan. We're going to be talking about Man United. Obviously, difficult week for them after the Copenhagen game. Luton on Saturday. You know, is it a must-win game for Ten Hag? What would happen if they don't win it? We're going to be looking at Spurs as well. Obviously, big news today: Mickey Van de Ven and James Maddison out until at least the new year. You know, what kind of impact will that have on Spurs this season? And you know, with suspensions, they are players. You know, with Richarlison out injured, can Spurs afford to lose any more players? And what would it do to their season should they lose any more? And we'll also be looking at the big game, which is Chelsea against Man City. You know, Chelsea have done quite well against the big teams. Why is that? Why can they not beat the smaller teams? And we'll also be looking at the rest of the weekend's games, including Arsenal, Liverpool, and a few others. So, Stefan, great to have you back on the channel. How have you been?
I've been good, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me back on. We have a lot of things to actually discuss because, you know, as you listed, just numerous kind of events that we possibly have. But yeah, I'm just excited to give my view and to hear yours also. So good to be on the show, man.
I mean, getting to that stage of the season now, you know, we're talking about good starts, bad starts, but you know, really after this weekend, you know, when we come back after the international break, you're on the last weekend of November, so you can't really call it starts anymore. You'd say that's the way the season is shaping up for a lot of teams, you know. So I think it's a big weekend for a lot of teams. You know, United have to try and maybe not just find a way to win against Luton, but try and put a performance together. They give their fans some hope. Spurs, I think everyone's going to be watching that game tomorrow. You know what Spurs' character going to be like away to Wolves. It's not going to be easy. Can they cope without their best players? Some of their best players mustn't. And obviously, the big game at the weekend: can Chelsea get a big scalp against Man City, or do Man City keep on pushing? Have they upped their level in the last few games? You know, remains to be seen. And you know what? Arsenal's probably not played their best football. They're still there. Liverpool, I think there's more to come from them. They're still there. So it's definitely shaping up to be an exciting season. Stefan, how are you seeing it at the minute before we start looking at the weekend's games and the big talking points? You know, what would your summary be, the first 11 games?
I would say the summary would be simply the most important thing this season is availability. And if you look at who is top of the league, they have the least amount of injured players and the least amount of, I mean, yes, you can say De Bruyne, but De Bruyne has been injured since the start of the season. All of their other key players that they have, Rodri. You saw what happened with Man City when Rodri got banned for 3 games. They lost 2 games in a row, and I think they lost in the League Cup. So they lost 3 out of 4 games without him, and he played in the Champions League. So for me, that is the most important. You're looking at Arsenal, where you know people are talking about the Spurs injury crisis. We're going through a kind of a little one. You know, Partey is out until they're saying at least the new year. Knowing him, you know, you can add another month on that because of the African Cup of Nations. I mean, so you know, Chelsea
as well.
Yeah, I mean, look at Man United. Man United have pretty much missed, you know, a number of key players throughout the whole season. Luke Shaw has been injured for ages. Martinez is gone so you can see that teams are really, really struggling in terms of because of that. But you know what? I'm actually being impressed with Arsenal per se in terms of our depth, how we've managed to cope. It hasn't been as bad. If we're 3 points behind or within reach within Man City at the end of the year, I'll be happy, Gareth. I'm going to be honest.
Stefan, you know, you're saying about Arsenal there, Jesus, Partey, 2 key players. Spurs, maybe Van de Ven, Maddison, 2 of their players. Odegaard, yeah. Some key players mustn't. I mean, do you think this is the worst possible time to get injuries? I know there's people will say you want your players fit towards the end of the season, but most of the games are on. December is the busiest month in terms of fixtures, the most of points available. of any hour month in the year. I
That's
mean,
true, man.
is this the worst time they possibly have injuries?
I mean, based on the number of games that there is, yes, in a way. But for me, if I was to pick a time when everybody can get back fit, it would be kind of the last 3 months of the season. So March, April, May. For me, that was the difference last year between Arsenal winning the league and not winning the league. It was Saliba getting injured. It was Partey getting injured in those key months, and I just think that I think we can cope. Like so certain players we have. Eddie Nketiah isn't, a world class striker. Arsenal fans are always on him, but he's not a bad backup striker. There are very few backup strikers that have scored more goals than him in the Premier League. So I'm fine with him. It's just the problem is the thing that annoys me about Arsenal fans is that Eddie, okay, yeah, Eddie might not be the striker that leads us to the league, but he's a backup striker. Jesus needs to stay fit more and not get as injured. So, you could look at it both ways. The same with Spurs. I told you before, we've spoken about this. Maddison, if you look at his injury record, a leopard doesn't change his spots. Look at Partey. Everybody expected him to get injured. He got injured. Maddison, if you look at his injury record, he misses about 8 to 10 games a season. And
It's the
it's
same
like,
injury as well. It's his ankle again. That's worrying.
yeah,
Ligament
and
damage.
I'll be honest, as a former athlete, because because I'm in a WhatsApp group with Spurs fans and Arsenal fans and all kinds, and I was like, guys, as a former athlete, like if you fall down and there's no contact, it's usually a bad sign. And they're like, no, he was walking
Mm.
off, he waved to the crowd. I'm like, okay, well,
Mm.
if it's a
From what I
non-contact,
heard on the Madison one, he's been carrying an ankle knock for the last number of
yeah,
weeks, and it's got
yeah,
worse. And
no,
it's
because
basically
yeah.
broken down.
Because Gareth, from looking at usually the main reason why, for example, players get ACLs or uh, Achilles ruptures is because their muscles are tired, and you could relate to an ankle sprain also, where because their actual muscles are tired at one point, they give away, the muscles start to slow down and don't have the same power, and as a result, your ankle twists or your Achilles ruptures. And so I really think that you could see that Maddison was kind of running on ice in a way because he had a strapping on his thigh, I think. Before that,
Yeah.
he had a few knocks on I think it was his shoulder. So
Mm.
yeah,
I mean,
he's been
we, we,
carrying.
we will come back to that, but as you said, I do think it was coming sooner or later. Stefan, we're going to start looking at these weekend's games, big weekend of fixtures for a lot of teams, as I said at the top of the show. We're going to start off with Man United. Funny enough, we always seem to be talking about Man United when you're on, but I mean, how can you not talk about them? Because it's been, I mean,
It's been amazing. It's
their
been amazing.
position in the table it probably looks better than what it actually should be because they've managed to win the games. The games that they haven't lost, they've won. They haven't had a draw.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's 9 defeats in 17 games in all competitions. And funny, when I was writing this down, I was sort of looking at how I worded it. I want to emphasize the word start. That's 17 games. That's nearly half a season in terms of Premier League games. So it's more than just a start now. As I said, you come up to this weekend, everyone's had 12 Premier League games. I don't think you can start calling it a start no much longer. I mean, I remember last season when Spurs got to that sort of international break, or before the World Cup, I was thinking we haven't played well once in any of these games that we've won. Surely eventually we're going to come good, and we never did. If anything, we got worse and worse and worse. So I wonder is the same thing going to happen with United? But I mean, it's 9 as I said, 9 defeats, 17 games. I mean, a lot of finger pointing going on between fans at United, former players at United, of who's to blame. I mean, Stefan, in your opinion, what is the
No,
main
it's just
problem? Who is to blame for this start of the season?
look, I'll be honest with you, Gareth. Man United fans really annoy me. Like every time things turn at Man United, it's always the ownership. It's always the ownership. They spent over 400 million in 2 seasons, okay? And it's the ownership. They don't spend enough money. Well, you've spent the most money out of any team in the Premier League, barring Chelsea, who are also doing very well. But forget that. But so you spent a ton of money. It's all, in my opinion, it is most of it is. I look. There is some substance to the fact that the ownership does run the club poorly. They rarely plan transfers. They still don't have. They're the only, I think, European club that plays in Europe that doesn't have a sporting director. You can go even further that they're the only Premier League club probably that don't. So you could say yes, their setup is really bad. I've heard about the fact that they don't invest in infrastructure. However, I would give 80% blame, maybe even 90 to Ten Hag. I'm sorry. You spent 85 million on a twirling clown. He's awful. Okay, he doesn't do it. I've never seen a more useless winger. He doesn't dribble, can't beat a man, doesn't score goals, and doesn't create anything. So you spend 85 million
just on that signing. Only, in my opinion, Ten Hag is the only person you can blame for that because he was his player X. So he clearly picked him. So you can't really associate anyone else with a blame there.
No, I was joking around with my friends yesterday. You know what? They could have saved money. Instead of just buying players, they should have just bought Ajax. Just buy Ajax and just take all the players and put them into Man United. Because that would have been far. Because some of his, you look at some of his signings, like Anthony. Terrible. In my opinion, they always go on Maguire, okay? But Maguire, I think he's just the scapegoat. But Maguire has been much better than Anthony. So in my opinion, Anthony's going to go down as probably their worst signing in history based on the value that they paid and just everything. And then you look at Martinez looked good in the first 6 months last year, but then he got injured. And ever since he came back from the injury in the first month or two, he was awful for Man United. He was awful. And then he got injured again. So he doesn't look good. Then you look at just some of his management of the actual players. You look at his management of the fact that he signs Mason Mount for 65 million, doesn't play him, Gareth. Why did you sign him? What's you play?
I thought that was a very strange decision. They bring him on as a striker. I couldn't understand that at all. I thought Højlund was having the best game in a United shirt.
No, I think this is the other thing. Don't get me wrong. I think Højlund has potential, but he's nowhere near ready to He's raw. He's very rough around the edges. You can tell he's not he's strong, yes, but in my opinion, if you watch him play, he needs space to do something. If you don't give him space where he can use his space, he's useless. He's not very good in the air. He's not particularly skillful where he can kind of create a chance out of nothing or set up someone. He's a pure kind of a running type of he's kind of he's a poor man's Haaland. He needs really good service for him to actually create. If he doesn't get the service, he doesn't look very good. So another signing which I didn't understand, but I just think some of his statements in the media, saying that you can't play the Ajax way and stuff. I think he's out of his depth, Garrett. So you say you can't play the Ajax way, yet you only sign players that had played in your Ajax system or in the actual Dutch league. So which one is it? Are you signing players because they're from Ajax and they play the Dutch way, or are you signing players because they suit the Man United system? It looks completely muddled. He has completely screwed up the transfer policy, and it's on Ten Hag.
Do you think the players are playing for him?
No. Because
I don't think they are.
Why would you, if you were two players, right, Maguire or McTominay, why would you play for him? He tried to sell.
To be totally honest to them, see to be fair to them too, I think they've come on and done okay.
Yeah. They've been one of their best. They've been one of their better, especially Maguire.
I think some of his favorites have really let him down, like Rashford and all. Casemiro's been poor. Fernandes is the only spot that only out. It's crazy.
Amrabat, did you watch him against Copenhagen? He was awful. Awful. Yeah, he was awful.
Awful.
Yeah, it's just.
I don't know what his position is. I don't really. When I look at him, he's not a midfielder for me. He's not good enough to play on the ball. To play in midfield.
Who?
Amrabat. I don't see it. I don't see the technical. Is this an James Rodriguez signing where they've signed him off the back of a few games at the World Cup? Because
that's what I always say. Be careful after a World Cup. Some guy, some in the, like, for example, I'll never forget, Domagoj Vida was the best center back in the 2018 World Cup from Croatia, right? He stayed in Besiktas because I'm sure scouts had a look at him. They're like, yeah, he had a good World Cup, but is he? I mean, he's not the best center back in the world based on one tournament where he got into the team of the year. I think Amrabat had a sensational tournament, but if you watch how he plays, I think he's too slow on the ball, Gareth. He's not up to the pace. I don't think he's good enough technically in the Premier League, where everything is much quicker than the Italian, and you could see it. Casemiro also. I think Casemiro has struggled because of the fact that I think on the ball, Casemiro is not very good. And you can say, yeah, he won 5 Champions League. Yes, he did, and he was really good, but he played in a certain role where he had Kroos and Modric next to him, where he didn't need to play too much with the ball. He'd just give it to them immediately. He'd win the ball and then pass it to them. I just think he doesn't know what he's doing. He's also getting into fights. I'm telling you right now, I predict that Varane is gone. The fact that you're telling me Varane,
awful.
Yeah, I think he's definitely had a falling out with Varane. I mean, to play Maguire and Johnny Evans, are you kidding me? No matter how bad Maguire, look, don't get me wrong, I rate Johnny Evans as a player, but no matter how bad Varane is, nobody is going to play Johnny Evans over. That tells me that there's a problem there.
I agree with that, but I'm thinking now Ten Hag's looked around the room and he's thought Evans, Maguire, McTominay, even though it's a Region to a certain extent, they're some of their weaker players, but I think he's looking at them thinking, well, they're going to give me 100%, so I have to put them on because he's trying to stay in his job. Whereas I think the likes of Varane, Casemiro, I think he has to play Fernandes because he's captain and they aren't playing for him. So I think he's putting Evans on there as because he thinks, right, he's not good enough, but at least he's going to give me 100%. He's a Man United through and through player. McTominay, United through and through. Maguire's desperate. They build his reputation back. I think that's why he's playing some of these players, as opposed to the likes of Varane and a few others. No,
but he's doing the same mistakes. I compare him to 2 coaches that lost the dressing room, Emery and Mourinho. Emery, just like Ten Hag, tried to instill discipline. So he tried to kind of pick on a big name player, which was Ozil. But then he started reintegrating him into the team. And as a result, I think the whole team didn't take him seriously. They're like, yeah, he's going to act tough, but he's not going to follow through. Unlike Arteta, for example, unlike Klopp or Pep. Pep is the most ruthless. Cancelo was one of the best fullbacks in the world. Has one fight with him. That's it. He's done. He's on loan to Bayern Munich. In 2 months later, he's gone. He's not even. He didn't even play another game for Man City. He was done. So the thing with him is comparing to Mourinho, where I think he's losing the dressing room. And I mean, how can you not? You try and sell McTominay, you buy Mason Mount, and then McTominay is the guy that has displaced Mason Mount when you clearly wanted to sell him to West Ham. And McTominay said no because West Ham didn't want to pay him his wages. So the same thing for not West Ham. I think it was Fulham. I forgot. But McTominay said no. And
Maguire was West Ham, wasn't it? Maguire was West Ham.
Yeah, Maguire was West Ham, but he wanted some 10 million payoff because of the difference in wages, and West Ham didn't want to do it, or Man United. So okay. So you're playing 2 players that you didn't rate. Everybody knows this. Of course, he's going to lose respect in the whole dressing room. And then the other problem that he has is, don't get me wrong, I despise what Sancho did. I hate that. Like, for me, Sancho deserves to be exiled 100%. But you do that whilst giving Anthony numerous, chance after chance after chance. Like Pelestri, for example, right? I don't think he's a world beater. But against against Fulham, he came on for the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes. He did more in the first 10 minutes than Anthony did the whole game.
Yeah.
But he never gets a chance.
Anthony, I think that is one thing that's been leveled at him, isn't it? Is that he's got his favorites.
Yeah, and it's obvious. Rashford, it took Rashford so long. Like he's been poor for 2 months now, and he didn't drop him once. Like Bruno, I love Bruno. I think Bruno is, super underrated and underappreciated by a number of a huge amount of Man United fans. He always tries, he always works hard, but he's been poor. He's been really bad. take him out of the firing line for a little bit. Like, you can't just keep playing players. And that's why I don't know how Bruno hasn't gotten injured, by the way. This guy plays every single game. He's insane.
Yeah.
He's like,
yeah. I mean, it's a huge game for them on Saturday, and I mean, it's one of them games. I don't know what they can gain from it because it's Luton Town at home. They're expected they won. Even the United, they're on the dog.
If you don't win that game,
they're expected they won this game. It's a free hit for Luton. Luton will sense a bit of vulnerability there. I mean, where are we at with Ten Hag? I mean, I am very surprised he's made it this far, but I mean, he's made it this far based on a lot of last-minute goals. Penalty saves. The things have gone his way in terms of big decisions and big games. I know he's crying about some refereeing decisions, but I mean, they've been fortunate. They've carried some luck. You think about the Wolves game. Onana clatters the player. That should have been Wolves at least.
Oh, I totally forgot about Onana. First 2 months as a goalie, disaster. I forgot about him. Sorry, Gareth. I forgot about him.
No, he's been better. And you think about they were 2-0 down to Forest, come back, get a fortunate Forest going to 10 men to get a fortunate penalty, won the game.
Of course.
Brentford, Brentford 2 late goals. Copenhagen missed a penalty.
Fulham.
I think the Fulham game is a candidate for one of the worst Premier League games of football I have ever watched.
It was terrible.
And I mean, the goal at the end summed it up. Just a scruff shot. The keeper should save it. Goes on. And do you know what? Sometimes when you're down there, you need them things to go for you. But I kind of think it is prolonging the inevitable. I mean, conflicting reports come to United. Some saying he could be sacked. Some saying he's got the full support. I mean, Radcliffe expected to come on next week during the international break and take over football operations. I mean, if they were to not beat Luton tomorrow, do you think they would make a change during the international break?
No. Man United are a bit like Arsenal. We're clubs that take too long to fire managers. We're not trigger happy like you guys and Chelsea, for example. We don't. Yeah. We always give, like, for example, Emery should have been fired like a month before he got fired. Like, everybody saw he had lost.
Funny enough, Stefan, I remember Spurs sacked Pochettino during that break. Arsenal didn't sack Emery.
Yeah, and everybody criticized us. Remember, they're like, "Look at Spurs."
He lasted one more game. He lasted one more game, and he was sacked then. So they must have had a chance to do it during the break, and they waited too long. But I know what you mean.
No, but like for example, because it's the most fresh in my memory because I'm an Arsenal fan. But I'll never forget we drew 2-2 at home to Southampton, playing defensive at home, and we scored in the last minute, like last kick of the game, and none of the players celebrated because they realized that they had kept him in a job. If I was an owner, if you have some time, watch that game because it was crazy to react because. If it's
they were bottom of the league and should have won about 6-0. It's much chance after chance, didn't they?
Yeah. They Southampton killed us in the game. They should have won the game easily. They were 2-0 up, and then in the last 15 minutes they choked, and then we scored with the last kick of the game. And Lacazette, he was like, oh, literally, if you watch the replay, he's like, oh no, because he realized that he's kept it.
I remember that. Because then he lasted one more game, the Europa League, and he was sacked after that.
But he lasted. Was it the Europa then? I forgot.
Frankfurt.
They should have fired him earlier, but it was obvious. And Mourinho. The same thing happened. Where the problem with Ten Hag he also has is compare it to Ange, right? I can compare in the situation. Ange, although he might lose, I think, a few games this year based on the way he plays because it's risky. Because of the good football, he gets more leeway. Fans, I mean, a standing ovation losing 4-1 to a London rival.
Never seen that before.
That for me shows that they really appreciate. Even if you lose, they still say, you know what? At least we tried. At least we gave it a go. At least we played good football. The problem with Ten Hag is the football is awful. It's really they played counterattacking football, Gareth, against Sheffield United away. I watched. Sheffield had more shots, more possession. They were better. They looked better.
A once in a lifetime goal from Dallo. They won it.
Yeah, a once in a lifetime. And then even if you watch the one that you said was the worst game, the Fulham game, Fulham had better chances. They had more shots. They were better.
Okay.
So
Owen's saying here that it reminds him so much of. He's a Liverpool fan. Owen reminds me so much of Ollie. He had also had his favourites. and that seems to be a thing at United. James, another Liverpool fan, saying United just buy
Yeah,
players and hope it works the same as Chelsea, no policy.
completely agree.
Good points from the lads. I mean, Stefan, a lot of Liverpool fans they love a wee bit of chat about United. These Liverpool
Of
fans.
course,
Here,
but
I
but
just
we have to do a Liverpool segment under tremendous game yesterday.
mm. I
We
was
have
just
to
going
do
to
a
ask,
segment
are
on
you
that.
feeling are you feeling okay? Do you want to get your temperature checked? Did I hear you praise Spurs and say that Spurs are playing good football?
No, it's been no, it's been hard for me. Don't get me wrong. That Chelsea game, I'll be honest, that is one of the most entertaining games. I was crazy, man. It was like a reality TV show. The amount of stuff
Crazy.
that happened in the game, it was just nuts. So many
Mm.
goals got disallowed. There was drama. There was like it was a crazy game, but for me, like in terms of, I'm just giving an example of why I don't think Ten Hag is going to get leeway because he also
Yeah.
plays. That's why Mourinho, they were fine when they finished second and were playing awful football. But then once they went to Anfield and got like completely
Slaughtered.
trampled on, they're like, okay, no, this is enough. Like we're playing crap football and we're also not winning. So it was the
Yeah.
same with Ollie.
Funny
was the
enough,
same.
Mourinho lasted to the middle of December that
They,
season.
they always they
Ollie,
always fire their coaches then. It's always
Ollie,
November-ish, December.
Ollie lasted to the end of November.
Yeah,
So
it's always.
I mean, let's say they're assessing this now and they think, well, maybe if we don't, I still think they will beat Luton. We'll come on to the predictions at the end of the show. But I mean, I think they will be starting to putting contingency plans in place in case they have to make a change. I mean, what are the options available to United? Because I mean, the longer the season goes on, the harder it is to get a manager in the middle of it. So I mean, I think if it gets to a situation, as you say, come the middle of December, where he has to go, it's looking like they'd have to get a manager on just until the end of the season, possibly, and then maybe look for someone in the summer. I mean, who would be the options, short term and long term? Do you think they'll be looking at?
I think they need to change their philosophy. I think they need to stop. Even though I thought Ten Hag was more of a kind of a project manager, it seems that was completely wrong. Um, I think they need to go project wise. I think they need to do what Arsenal did, what Liverpool did, which is hire a young coach who has ideas, who has a way of, who's worked in a structure that's been successful. And I know people don't rate him, but I really think he might work for Man United. Maybe he doesn't have the personality in mind.
Or
Maybe. Yes, I really do think they need to create an identity. They haven't had an identity for 10 years, Gareth. If you ask me, going through all the coaches, you go through David Moyes. I don't remember how they played. Louis Van Gaal. I fell asleep almost every game they played. Terrible. Like I didn't see any sort of Mourinho. Like even worse, terrorist football. Then you go forward. You go Ole, kind of good from time to time, but extremely chaotic. Like they would
it's very
win.
counter-attack as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, just pure counter attack. They would win some 4-0, then they would lose badly. Like it was very kind of, and then you have now Eric Ten Hag, who's pretty much carbon copy Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but with better players. Instead of having Scott McTominay as your number 6, you have Casemiro. Instead of having Lindelof and Maguire in defense or Eric Bailly, you have Varane and Martinez, who are obviously better. So they haven't had an identity or a coach that truly, like the way Ten
I
Hag.
think they need a leader, someone that's going to come in and be a fist for the club, someone that's going to galvanize the fan base, galvanize the squad. Because as you said, there, like that example, you look at Spurs in the summer too, an absolute mess. Fans didn't want Levy anywhere near it. Harry Kane leaving. But that's all sort of been shelved to one side because I think the manager's made a big impact. I think they need somebody like that that's going to come in. I mean, not to say that Ange is going to continue to do this for the next number of years. Things can change very quickly in football. Spurs could lose their next 6 games, and all of a sudden we're talking about Ange under pressure. So things can change in football very quickly. But he strikes me as somebody that he's a very like you buy into his way of thinking, you buy into his way of doing things. I mean, I don't see that with Ten Hag. I think desperately some of the United fans that are trying to back Ten Hag are saying we need to give him more time. But the problem I have with, and I'm no United. I mean, I'm very United's not a rival to Spurs in terms of London, Manchester. So I don't really see, there's no bias towards them. But I think the problem you've got is there's nothing to buy. There's nothing to buy into with Ten Hag at the moment. As you say, the football's awful. There's problems
Yes,
happening
yeah.
left, right, and centre. It looks like he's lost the dressing room. So I just don't see how it can get any better. So I think you're just delaying the inevitable.
No, Gareth, I completely. The thing with him is the big difference that I see from the Klopps. I would even put in
You even
Arteta
say
because
Arteta, right? Like Arteta, when he was going through difficult spells, there was still an identity about what Arsenal were
you
trying to do. You could see what he was trying to
you
do.
could see it. Yeah, you could see it. We weren't getting results, and I'll be honest. I told you before. I wanted him sacked that year where we went like 5 or 6 games where we lost because, But now seeing what he did, Man United, they have to just put a big bomb in the dressing room and just get rid of everybody because that culture that's being developed over the last 10 years, the Anthony Martials, the Luke Shaws, the Harry Maguire, I think is professional, but some of his statements I think are a little bit Man United-ish where he's like, "Oh, look at my win percentage." Like, Harry, you've been crap. Like, don't say that, man. Like, you haven't been very good.
See, when you were mentioning about Graham Potter there, I think he's a fantastic coach.
He doesn't have the
Definitely think
charisma.
he has an identity. Maybe, as you say, don't have the personality, but does he have the leadership? That's what I would worry about.
Yeah, that's where they need to
Mm.
find a tough coach. They need to find someone with a vision, with charisma. This is the thing. When I read about stuff about Klopp and Arteta, like every single player that has met Arteta, that has coached, even the players that he discarded, like Mustafi, for example, raves about Arteta. Dani Ceballos raves about Arteta. Like every single player has pretty much been won over,
And
apart from the players that he had a falling out with, which were the Guendouzi's, who, by the way, got mutinied against the coach in Marseille and now is at Lazio because they forced him out. So it looks like Arteta was correct. Aubameyang, I think, was a bit unlucky because I think Aubameyang was a good personality. I just don't think he had the leadership qualities. He wasn't professional, like he was late and stuff. So Arteta wanted someone to be like, if you're the main guy at the club, you need to be an example. And I don't think Aubameyang was that. But I think you need to have a tough personality. Like, how is Anthony Martial still at the club? The guy can't even play one game a week.
I think
Like, how
what
is
you're saying.
yeah.
See what you were saying about these coaches. Like, I think the biggest thing, the most important and biggest asset at Liverpool is Klopp, Man City, Guardiola, Arsenal, Arteta.
Yeah.
If it came to it tomorrow morning, you would lose Saka before you'd lose Arteta, wouldn't you? If you had to keep one, you'd probably
That's
keep your manager.
difficult, Gareth, man. That's a difficult one because Saka,
Well,
I think
if Liverpool had the option of keeping Klopp or keeping Salah, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if they had it, they would pick Klopp every day of the week. I think Man City, if they had the option of keeping Haaland or De Bruyne or over Guardiola, they would keep. And I think the same with Arsenal. Arteta has built something there that's going in the right direction. Obviously Saka's a key component, very young player that's only going to get better, but I don't see him. I mean, he's not the type of personality. I think he's a fantastic character. But if it came to it, what I'm saying is I think these people we're talking about are the most important people at their clubs. I don't see that with Ten Hag.
No, I completely agree with you. It's just you have to stay true. I really do believe this. You have to stay true to the heritage of the club. You look at Man United. What have Man United always been famous for? For hiring Sir Alex Ferguson. Yes, he was a very successful coach at Aberdeen, but he had never been tested in England. Not a lot of people were kind of convinced by him. So, like, and his first years were super tough, but he was a project manager. He took the class of 92, he developed them. Arsenal, very similar. George Graham, when he came to Arsenal, toughened them up. He was a young coach. Nobody took us seriously. He was, he took a lot of academy players. That's what made it successful. Wenger, Arsene Who, very famous, newspaper article. But they were all young coaches, innovative coaches. Yes, George Graham in a different way. He was the defensive kind of, linchpin and stuff like that. But he was still a young coach, still had, vibrance and, they're not staying true to their philosophy. They need to find a coach who has the personality. Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton, I've been impressed, but he fluctuates too much. Like he has one game where he wins 5-1 and then he loses 6-1 to someone.
Do you think though
He's a bit emotional?
Do you think the European thing has anything to do with that though? They would be a bit stretched squad boys.
For sure, yeah, for sure. I agree, but I just think one of the criticisms of Arteta I've always told you is I really do believe that the team kind of espouses the coach in a way. So it mirrors the coach. So Arteta, in my opinion, is too emotional on the sidelines. He's too in your face, kind of telling players what to do nonstop and stuff. And as a result, that translates to the players and they get nervous and they get, they get emotional. They start to complain with the ref. They start to lose their head. And it was the same. Ange, on the other hand, what I've been impressed is Ange is quite calm on the sidelines. He creates confidence within the players because he's not on their ass. Like Arteta is, I've watched him. They've done like sideline cameras. The guy is nonstop telling players where to be, where to position. And I think that hinders from time to time players. It makes them really tight. It makes them seem unconfident about it. And Man United need to hire Ten Hag. Just you look at him and he just, I'm sorry, I know this is going to be wrong and superficial, but like you look at him and he just doesn't look like he's a man. He doesn't have the authority. He wears like come on, you earn so much money. Hire a tailor, man. He wears oversized suits, so he kind of looks awkward even more. Like, come on, man. Like,
I think it was Simon Jordan says he's a small man in a big suit.
Yeah, it's like he looks, and it was the same. And it reminds me, even though Rafa Benitez is a great coach, when Rafa Benitez went from Liverpool to Chelsea, he just looked so out of place. Like you could tell the players didn't like him. And with Ten Hag, it's the same. Like the players do like him, a number of them, because he brought them to the club. You can see who's loyal. But why would players like Varane and like stuff like the moment he challenges Varane, Varane's going to say, "I've won 5 Champions Leagues. You've won a Dutch league. Why would I take you?"
Yeah, I'm going to throw a name at you, and you're probably not going to like it, because I know you're not his biggest fan. But
no, don't say
do
Poch.
you think Unai Emery could do a job at United?
No, you picked the worst one. Unai Emery, I told you, is an amazing coach for a Villarreal, for a team that's a complete underdog. That is not the Barcelona or the Real Madrid, is a notch below. So where he can go into the games and kind of use his tactical. The moment he has to deal with big time personalities, Emery is a complete. He failed at PSG, even though PSG, okay, you can argue, but he really failed at PSG. He failed at Arsenal, completely managing the big personalities. Look at the way he handled Granit Xhaka. Look at the way he handled Ozil. Like
you could argue, and then certain, as you say, with PSG, a lot of managers have struggled there. And then with the Arsenal one, as he walked on after Wenger, which was always going to be a very difficult task.
It was a difficult task, but some of the situations where that happened at Arsenal, he didn't have the personality to deal with it. Arteta, for all his flaws, I'll give him credit. His stubbornness saved him at Arsenal, where if he put his mind to one thing, that's it. He said Ozil is exiled. We would struggle with creativity no matter what. He would never play Ozil. Emery, at the first sign of trouble, when he had exiled Ozil, immediately brought him back into the team, Gareth. And as a result,
he may have learned from that.
No. You
the only thing out. Do you think Emery is at his level at Villa? That's his level.
Yeah, that is. He's at the perfect club because they have money. They're gonna support him. The expectations aren't too high, like in terms of compared to to the Man Cities, to the Liverpools, to the Arsenals, to the Man United. At Man United, one bad game, they're gonna want his head. They're gonna want an explanation. The other thing about also, he doesn't play he doesn't have a football philosophy. He's a very pragmatic coach. He plays only to the strengths of his team. Like, so for example, that's why if you look at I'll give him credit though, he's a great coach. Every single team where he plays at, Gareth, the attacking players have their best seasons. I don't know how. He goes to Arsenal, Aubameyang becomes top goal scorer. Lacazette was named player of the season, even though Lacazette was amazing that one year.
Ben's an Arsenal fan. He's also saying Emery brought through Saka as well.
Yeah, okay. He allowed him to play, yes, but I mean, people all go overboard with that. He played him in a non kind of. I think the Frankfurt game was pretty much.
There was also that argument as well that he wasn't getting to pick the players. He wanted Zaha, and he was giving Pepe. He wanted our players, and it was somebody else picking the players.
But that again tells me that. See, this is what I don't like.
As you say, he should have put his foot down.
Yeah, but either like what an example of a manager with personality, Klopp. they said, listen, we can't sign Van Dijk in the summer. Remember when the summer before January when Southampton
Yeah, yeah.
reported them?
I remember
Yeah,
that. I remember that.
Southampton wanted 80 or what was it, 70, 80 million, and Liverpool's like, we're not paying that. And but they're like, okay, we're gonna try and sign this guy. We can sign this. Klopp was like, no, I don't want any defender, even though he had Klavan or what was his name, the Estonian guy. He was terrible. He had Dejan Lovren, awful. He said, no, I want only one defender, and that is Virgil van Dijk. And he got his man in January, and Liverpool never looked back after that signing. That was their kind of, Liverpool are back moment when they signed Van Dijk, in my opinion. That was their biggest, and that is down to the personality of the coach. Because what Emery did was, okay, I really want Zaha. He's a top player, but Arsenal's like, we're not going to pay 80 million. Like, we're just not. We can pay, 70 million in 5 installments to Lille for Nicolas Pepe, who was a big, very, very hot name in Europe at that point. And he agreed to it. And then what old people don't also know about Emery is, if you look at some of his signings, they're very agent-led. His agent is very powerful. I forgot his name. Like the Dennis Suarez, that was because of Emery. That wasn't because the club
got
wanted
that
him.
fella at Aston Villa. What's his name from Roma? Zanolio or
yeah, no, but Zaniolo's a talented player. I can see why they signed him, but Dennis Suarez, really, that was BS. Like, so I just think and also that again shows me kind of the lack of personality, that after you fail at a club, you start to talk. I don't like that, Gareth. You made those decisions, you accepted them. Don't complain and bitch about them later.
He's also saying Emery signed Saliba
No,
for
he
us.
didn't. No, yes, I mean, he was the coach when we signed him, but it was the scouts that I identified him and said we have to sign him. He never.
Well, to be fair, we've just made the argument that he wanted Zaha and got Pepe, so it's hard to say at any say in signing Saliba, to be totally honest.
No, he did have. He could have said, I don't want to sign Pepe. I don't rate him.
No, but I mean, sorry, it's hard to say that Emery had any say in Saliba coming on if he couldn't get that. So I would say that was the recruitment team. But final thoughts on Man United, Stefan. I mean, they've got 2 massive games in the Champions League. They try and get themselves out of it. I mean, funny enough, they've never, ever beaten Galatasaray away, ever. So,
I didn't know this up until now. They have never won in Turkey, period, in Europe.
So
since the inauguration of the Champions League, that includes the Sir Alex Ferguson years, their great years and stuff, they have never won in Turkey.
It's a very tough place to go, Galatasaray. Very tough place to go.
It's hell. It's the atmosphere is crazy.
You wouldn't have any confidence that United team will be able to cope with it, because they seem to crumble under pressure.
And not only that, Galatasaray have everything to play for, so they're going to be so pumped. The crowd is going to be pumped. Like it's. I think
Bayern Munich at home in the last game. Now that will probably be an under strength Bayern Munich, but
yeah,
I mean,
they're probably going to play
with. They have to get a result against Galatasaray, or that Bayern Munich games are relevant anyway. So I mean, do you see them getting their way out of this?
I see them beating Bayern at home, because Bayern are probably going to play with their under 19s, probably, because they'll be through, and they will have probably won the group by then. So in my opinion, they'll probably beat Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich aren't going to play with any of their first team stars in my. So yeah.
So Galatasaray, how do you see
lost?
that?
No, Galatasaray. Look, the great Man United teams couldn't win it in Turkey. They're not winning at Galatasaray. Like, they're not. Like, it's.
I think a draw keeps them alive, but a defeat and they're out.
I would say I agree with you, Gareth, but they're defensively, they've been horrific. They just conceded 4 goals against Copenhagen, man. Like, they're gonna go, and the Copenhagen atmosphere was really good. It was really cool. I was impressed. I was like, wow, like Scandinavian fans are intense. The Turkish fans just, I mean, look at what they did when they came away to Man United. They took over Old Trafford. They bought like tickets all over the actual stadium. They're nuts.
I think that could be very well his last game. I think if he loses that, I'm not sure he can survive. I think his position comes untenable. Not getting out of a group with Galatasaray and Copenhagen's as a United coach is unforgivable.
I disagree. I checked the fixtures. On the 17th of December, Man United go away to Anfield. That is his expiry date, in my opinion.
Right. Liverpool fans have been begging Ten Hag to stay that long so they can finally finish him off.
They finished off Mourinho. Wait, who finished off? Oh, it was Watford. Yeah,
But they lost. I think they lost the Liverpool 5-0 2 games before.
Yeah, 2 weeks, and everybody was like, "Why didn't they fire him?" Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Let's move on and talk about Spurs. I mean, everything was going pretty well until Monday night there, and they've not only lost to Chelsea, they've had players injured, suspended. I mean, it's been one disaster after another. But today, Ange Postecoglou confirmed that James Maddison and Mickey Van der Ven will be out until the new year. So they will miss the rest of the 2 games in November plus all the December games. I'm not sure even if we'll be back in time for that United game on the 13th of January. I think that is the target. I mean, for me, the Spurs have had 3 standout players this season. Maddison, Van de Ven, and Son have been the 3. I think Basuma's done quite well, but them 3 in particular, and the goalkeeper as well, maybe
the goalie. You have to put in the goalie.
The goalkeeper. I mean, I think it's probably been unfair to criticize. I think all the Tottenham players have done quite well, but if somebody had said to me, who's the 4 players you want to lose, I would have said the goalkeeper, Van de Ven, Maddison, and Son. We've lost 2 of them. Son looks shattered too, to be totally honest. Richarlison now is injured as well, so I mean, Son's going to be asked to keep playing. So wouldn't be surprised if anything happened to him. But I mean, just on these 2, I mean, how do Spurs cope without them? Can they cope without them, Stefan?
No, I'm sorry. Like you're gonna say I'm biased, but I watched you guys make changes against Fulham in the League Cup, and the team just looks so disjointed with this. Just the level drop by like 2 or 3 notches. It was significant. Like it was a significant change, and I think going from Van de Ven to Eric Dyer is like, I would say maybe similar to going from Saliba to Holding. I mean, people were saying, "Oh, stop with these excuses about Arsenal." Holding can't even start for Palace, so. And I think Eric Dyer,
he would struggle to get on most Premier League teams.
I don't think. I think he's not that bad, but he's exactly like Holding, which is a great example. Chelsea, when the 4-1 loss, he was playing really well for 20-25 minutes, and then he made a horrific mistake for the 3rd goal where he just let the
play offside.
Yeah. And you're like, just when I was like, oh, he's doing well, and Holding.
To be fair to Dyer, and this isn't his fault, but I mean that high line's going to cripple him.
Yeah, and I'm really worried because Wolves away, they play super counterattacking. They have fast. I know they don't have Pedro Neto.
That's probably the only. If Pedro Neto was playing, I would be. Yeah. I would take a point now if he was playing.
Yeah, if Pedro Neto was playing, I would be really worried. I agree, but. They still have Cunha. They still have guys that can really run, that are super athletic. And the thing with Eric Dyer is that I was talking to a few Spurs fans. He is the polar opposite of Christian Romero. He is the defender that I would love to play against because when you run at him, instead of him engaging you, he backs off and is passive. So he gives you even more space for you to come into the final third and into the box.
Or else he just kicks you. Well,
he rarely tackles though, Gareth. I think he has one of the lowest. Like he rarely puts in a tackle.
This season he hasn't had as many tackles. So I don't know if that's been worked on. But I mean, he completely lost his head. Just a few comments. Sorry, Steph, before you go on.
Yeah, go on.
Ben saying he's an Arsenal fan. He said Terrible and Ange ball is exciting to watch. Great to see these 2 teams playing great football. Martin Ward, a Liverpool fan, saying rest in peace Spurs title challenge. Fun while it lasted. Liverpool, we could be the next to go when we go to Man City after the international break. But I mean, as you say, these players coming on, Dyer, the young lad Phillips is going to come on, I believe, tomorrow. They're saying from Blackburn.
Gareth, sorry to interrupt you. How are Spurs fans saying, let's try a 19-year-old who has barely any championship?
No options. There's nobody else they put on there.
Yeah, no, there is. You can play Royale. You can play him.
I think so, because I think Pedro Porro's puck up a knock, so he's going to be missing. So has to play Royale right back and Ben Davis left back. I think we're really
Porro
short.
Is also injured?
I think he's had a knock, but he'll be back. I think Doggy's suspended, but I think Porro's like 50. I think they have to leave him out just in case he gets injured. So I think he'll be back after the international break. So they will have the one good thing, I suppose. But I mean, he's not a centre back. So this is what I'm saying. So I think they're really stuck. I mean, Ange just said obviously injuries is a big part of football, but he can never remember a time in his career where his back four's been wiped out in one game, the whole back four.
Just it was. I mean, the thing is, like, if you look at it from another perspective, there is some positive news about Van de Ven. He doesn't need surgery. If it was surgery, that's minimum 3-4 months. Like
this is worrying me, but because apparently Van de Ven had a similar injury in February, and he must
I also read about that. That the negative is that I've read that he has. Once you get a bad hamstring injury, the problem is they start to reoccur.
Do you think because of how he plays too, he's more susceptible because he's got things like long bursts and he's explosive and he's playing on a high line where the ball's going over the top. And I mean, if he's been charged, well, obviously Spurs are trying to get the line right, but obviously you're not going to get every line right, and there's going to be times where somebody breaks your offside trap where he's in there for his recovery speed. And I mean, he bursts through. And I think another point as well, and this isn't an excuse, but I think Ange elaborated this today. There's so many VAR checks in that first half. The ball was only in play for 23 minutes out of 57. So all that standing around probably doesn't help either. So, I mean, I would be surprised if this is the last of injuries Van de Ven has of a hamstring injury. I can see it happening time again.
I agree. Like, I have one theory. The way you guys play, the intensity that you play, I think Arteta, the reason why we're playing a bit differently now, a bit slower, and we're not as creative is I think Arteta slightly learned his lesson from last season where we started like completely, just on fire. We were running nonstop. We were playing. And I think we ran out of gas at the end. And with Ange, I think that style, it reminds me a little bit of Bielsa, which is super entertaining, super intense. But as the season goes on, the injuries start to pile on just because of the way and the style of the football. So I'm looking at it from just that type of where I'm a bit concerned about the intent because players like Maddison who already have an injury history, like once if you get into Europe, which I think you will, I don't think that style is gonna be sustainable in terms of just the intensity and the lack of injuries. But going back to Van de Ven, I completely agree with you. Like I'll give when I was training, I got a grade 2 calf strain. It took me I admire players. Like I don't know how they do it at such a level, but it took me like 6 months to feel like I'm kind of back at like my normal explore. I was always nervous in the first like 2 months that I started playing that I was playing with the handbrake on. So I can't imagine like players that, because his hamstring injury looks significant, man. If it's a muscle injury and you pull up like this and you're in terrible pain and you can't put any weight on it, that's bad. That's either grade 2 or grade 3.
I think they suspected he wasn't just a tear. I think they
surgery. They thought surgery.
Well, they thought he snapped his hamstring completely.
Yeah, it looked like it because I remember 10 years ago, Lucas Podolski was playing against Fenerbahce in the Champions League, and he snapped it carbon copy like Van de Ven. He started a really big sprint, and then he just snapped it, and he fell kind of outside the pitch, and they needed a stretcher and stuff, and he was out for 4 months. So I was like, I
mean, there has been a lot of hamstring injuries recently. Do you think these sort of, since that Liverpool Spurs game where Spurs got the decision of the VAR, a lot of these VAR decisions even the obvious ones, are taking a very long time. Do you think that's having any impact on why we're seeing players get more injuries, or is there any sort of evidence they suggest that could be happening? Because I mean, I was at that game the other night, and obviously we can't see on what's happening when we're at the game because. So I was texting. There was Wi-Fi in the stadium, so you were able to get I was texting friends and stuff, and they were saying, "I don't know what's taking this so long." Like Derek Dyer one is clearly offside. There's a couple of other ones that was clear, but it takes so long. I mean, we're seeing now when these the last mic'd up show we heard Webb, since that Liverpool game and Spurs, there's been a new protocol where they have to repeat to each other what the decision is and double check and treble check. So decisions are taking longer. And if there's so many in a game, that does lead to a lot of standing around, and especially moving into the colder weather now. I mean, could we see more players getting injured?
No, for sure. But I just think it's down to, the Van de Ven one, you can't place it on that because he plays once a week only, Gareth. Like, let's be honest. If he can't handle once a week, how is he going to handle twice a week? Like, you can say this about the Man United players. You can say this about the Arsenal players suffering from injuries. About the teams that play twice a week, pretty much like Arsenal before this international break now have played literally every 3 days. So I don't know if it's, I don't agree with this, the VAR stuff. I just think it's just another kind of excuse to pile on VAR for no reason when it's the quality of the reffing. But in my opinion, I think the biggest thing is just the amount of games. I think they need to start thinking much more about the just the welfare of the players. I'm sad that the Players Association isn't more kind of, doesn't have a more trade union kind of aspect to it, because of the fact that if you look at the American sports, the NFL, they did lockouts, the NHL did a lockout, the Baseball Associate, the MLB did a lockout, the NBA has a lockout pretty much every 6 to 7 years because of just the agreements between the owners and the players. And I think they need to have a discussion, because all of this, the amount of football that they play, it's not either play that many games but allow for your squads to be bigger, or just reduce the game. Like, in my opinion, I know this is bad, but why is the League Cup still going on? It needs to be scrapped. There's no need for. Tell me another league.
I think now what you're seeing with the League Cup, especially now next season when this new format in Europe comes on,
it needs to be.
It's seen as an inconvenience. Now, teams see the teams playing like the likes of your Arsenals, your Man Cities, your Liverpools, all these top teams are just seeing it as an inconvenience, and they're kind of just bumming it off. They're playing their second string, and it's almost like an inconvenience.
No, but not only that, when they give me an argument about tradition and heritage, okay, now tell me another big European league, Italy, Spain, France. Tell me which one has a League Cup? Not one of them. I think Germany had, but they scrapped it. And it's the same.
I think it's not just the big teams as well, to be fair, Stefan. I think a lot of the weaker teams are resting players too, because the money they stay in the Premier League, or the money for a team in the Championship, they get promoted to the Premier League. Everybody's seeing it as an inconvenience, and it's sad. But I do think there is calls for this now to be scrapped.
It's for money. It's for money, because Carabao pays a chunk of money to the FA. That's why they keep it. That's the only reason, and only that they get to be paid more money from TV revenue. So their deal with the FA for the Premier League and for the FA Cup and for everything is way bigger, because of the fact that they can offer them more matches, more content. Which, I mean, just like, take examples from leagues that are doing things differently. Look at the way the NBA did it with their in-house playoffs. So instead of the teams traveling a lot for the last 10, 20 games, they have pretty much an intramural competition in one city. And that reduced injury rates by at least 15%. They did a recent study. Be more innovative. Why does it always take? This is the thing that annoys me about the UK. I love the fact that they admire tradition. The FA Cup is it's where football is created.
You're right. We seem to be 5 years behind every
it's like for example, the winter break. Everybody told them Germany has a winter break, Italy has a winter break, Spain has a winter break. No, we're gonna pay a game every two days. And then why do England always do shit at the World Cup? Because all of their players, by the time the World Cup comes, are shattered.
I don't know how they didn't go for the semi-automated offsides. I mean, that was just crazy. I just don't get. And now apparently we're hearing today they're going to be bringing them on next year. So this is just it's bad decision. Not a bad decision. I know we got a bit sidetracked there, Stefan, but Spurs was flying there up until, as I said, Monday. Everyone was saying, could they challenge for the league? What would be a good season? But I mean, is there a danger now come January when these players come back? And let's hope it is January when they come back for Spurs. But where could Spurs be come January? Do you see them being still in the top four? Do you see them sliding down really far? Or, I mean, or by some miracle, can they stay up on thereabouts?
The thing is, Gareth, you lost players, especially one of them that you have no direct replacement. Maddison, you don't have everybody. I'm reading everybody is saying Bentancur. Bentancur is a good player, but he's not a creator. He's not a guy that
he's more of a box-to-box.
Yeah, he's more of a box-to-box. He's not a guy that can shimmy, that can make a really nice through ball. That's just not his game. So he's not going to be able to directly replace what Maddison does. Especially
I disagree. I think Van de Ven's irreplaceable too.
Yeah, and of course, because Van de Ven, because the next person down is Eric Dyer, and the levels are just they're massive. The difference in levels is massive. So You have the problem is that do I think you're going to side because the injuries are to key players and the games that you have you seen your next 3-4 games?
Mm.
They're really tough. You have, I think, Wolves away, Man City at home.
Wolves away, Villa home, Man
Yeah,
City away,
Villa. These are
West Ham
all
home, Newcastle
yeah,
home.
these are all games. West Ham haven't been very good, but Villa beat you last season. Villa are playing, and Emery is extremely pragmatic when it comes to playing away from home, especially against the big
Well,
teams.
all them teams be looking at it now and thinking, counter-attack Spurs with a lack of pace at
Yeah,
the back.
just counterattack Spurs, and if they're gonna play a high line with Eric Dyer, ball over the top, easy.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't change. I think he might slightly
He's
change
not
that.
gonna change it, Gareth. He's not.
Well, no, he won't change completely. He said that today, but I think he will maybe drop 5 yards at least. They try and give Dyer some support.
Maybe, yeah, but he reminds me. Look, I honestly
Or
think
he'll bring. Or what he'll do is when Doggy's back after the international break, left back, and he'll play Emerson and Phillips at the back for piss and drop Dyer completely.
If he plays Phillips, he deserves to be sacked, man. You cannot play this kid. He doesn't have the experience. You cannot do this. You're gonna destroy the kid. You're gonna destroy him because for me, center back is the most difficult position to transition. Maybe apart from goalkeeper, to transition from youth football to top flight professional. That's why center backs like Saliba, for example, that are starters at the age of 20, 21, extremely rare in football. Just go look at the top teams and look at their center backs. They're all over the age of 25, literally all of them.
Somebody's asking here, do you call it soccer or football?
Football, of course, football.
There you go. I mean, a lot of talk about Ange Postecoglou. Won his third manager of the month today in a row. Been a great start for him. He's I have to say, I do think there's a media favoritism towards him, and that's me as a Spurs fan. They really do like him. Whether that's the Aussie, they say that Aussies are very friendly and people buy into them. Maybe like Irish people, everyone says kind of the same about us. But whatever it is, the style of play, the laughs, you've seen him sort of taking the piss out of Gary Neville beside Jamie Carragher, and Jamie Carragher was loving it. He seems to have that charismatic personality. But I mean, in terms of his actual coaching abilities and his managerial abilities, how big of a test is it now that he's lost his best players? Because we've seen Klopp, Arteta, Pep over the years lose key players, and maybe not won every game, but they've still sustained their level to a certain extent. I mean, can Ange, if he manages to stabilize it, as I say, maybe not pick up as many points as they have so far, but I mean, say go to Wolves and win, maybe beat Villa, lose to City, and maybe take 4 points out of West Ham.
That would be amazing, Gareth.
That would be amazing. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, how big of a test is it for him? And do you think we'll learn a lot more about his level as a coach in these next sort of 4 or 5 weeks?
I told you this before. I'm gonna learn whether he's a good coach. He's the guy when you guys have some sort of crisis. And now this is the moment. Can he manage this? Can he give the squad belief? Can he instill a system can he be pragmatic also? Is he going to be stubborn? Because if it's not working, can you change the system? So for example, Wolves, you go to Wolves away, it's not working. They score a goal 1-0 and he's playing with a super high line and that's why it's not working. Can he change something? Can he do don't get me wrong, this isn't only on him. It's also the options that he's given, which are not good enough in my opinion. So sometimes it's out of the manager's hands.
Callum thinks he's very similar to Klopp, extremely stubborn, changing off them. I mean, as you say, they're Wolves. I think Wolves will be happy to let Spurs have the ball anyway and sit back. So I don't really
they're going to just counter you.
The big test, I mean, if he goes to Man City and plays the high line with Eric Dyer.
Oh my God. If he plays the high line against Man City with Eric Dyer, they're going to score 4 or 5.
There's Brave, and then there's being silly. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he does in that game. But, I mean, Ben's flat out tonight there. Ben's asking, he's an Arsenal fan, as I said earlier. He's asking, what do you think of the Southgate comments? About Ramsdale would have to look at his position if he's not playing games, but he still seems to pick the likes of Phillips. I know Maguire's playing now, but before when he wasn't, they were still picked all the time. But it's very similar to Ten Hag, isn't it? He has his favourites.
Yeah, he has his favorites. I mean, how how in the world, like you know me, and you know I don't rate him. How in the world is Conor Gallagher in the England squad? Like, forget the favorites, Calvin. Like, how is James Ward-Prowse not in the England squad? What does James Ward-Prowse have to do to get? He is 1,000 times better than Conor Gallagher, in my opinion. Like, all Conor Gallagher does.
Interestingly, his comments on Phillips really baffled me. He says that there's not many can play his position, they his level.
Or yeah, and there's
level
not many. Yeah, go on.
No,
Sorry.
I don't get that. But what is his level? I haven't seen anything
He
spectacular.
has his favorite. He has his favorites. I mean, how is Ben White not in the England squad?
Crazy.
How is Ben? The guy can play right back, center back, and midfield. How is he not in the England?
Usually like that because he has Trent on there. He's got Trippier on there that can all play different positions. Kyle Walker.
I'm sorry. He is miles better than Trent because he can actually defend. Trent, for all his, we saw.
Trent's ability on the ball is unbelievable.
No, his ability, yes, his ability. But watch the Luton game. Luton targeted him every single time. That left winger for Luton tore him to pieces in that game. He bullied him. I forgot his name. I think Kabore.
Come on.
Kabore.
Final thoughts on the Spurs game tomorrow. I mean, obviously coming away from Ange, there's obviously only so much he can do. I mean, one thing leveled at Spurs over the years has been a lack of character. I think they fared them on Monday night. They showed a lot of character. Even some of the players that come on, they dug in. They didn't just roll over. I know towards the end, Chelsea the scoreline, but it was never, as you said, it was never a 4-1 game. I mean, how big of a test is it tomorrow for them Spurs players? We're missing so many players, and you complete new back four coming in. Wolves will be up for it. They'll sense vulnerability in Spurs. I mean, and as you say, if they concede an early goal and they have to try and come from behind, we're going to learn a lot about this character of the Spurs team tomorrow, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, if I was you, I would take a 1-0 ugly win to the bank. Like if that happens, like I'll be so happy. Honestly, I don't know. I think the Molineux is a super difficult place to go. You rarely go to the Molineux and score more than 2 goals. Like you're never going to go and win 3-4-0 because they're always just a solid outfit. They always have good players. And I just think if he sets up in a similar way to the usual, I think he's going to really I think Eric Dyer and Emerson Royale in defense, and Ben, if he plays Ben Davis left back, who I think doesn't have the pace, like that's going to be a lot.
Shows you how short they are, isn't it? I mean, they need back and line. I mean, they're so short in certain areas. As you say, the drop off and level for some of these players
is massive.
That's crazy. But I mean, let's move on. Talk about probably the feature game of the weekend. The one that everyone will be looking forward to watching is the 4:30 game on Sunday. That will close us off under the national break. I mean, Chelsea, up and down season, more downs than ups, you would probably say. But I mean, their best results have come against the teams you'd probably most likely expect them to get beat by. I mean, going on to the Man City game, there might be some confidence in the camp. I know Man City are probably regarded as the best team, but I mean, they've got results against Chelsea, against Arsenal, and they beat Spurs. I mean, why do they do so much better against these better teams? Is it anything to do with tactics, maybe having more space, or do you think there's a lot of luck involved?
They play pragmatic football with much better players than typically pragmatic teams. So, for example, when Nottingham Forest played Arsenal, they don't have Raheem Sterling they have Elanga. And the reason why it works is because the opposing team, the bigger, like the Arsenal or Liverpool or whatever, they're going to open up. They're going to play with a high line. So they'll give space to Raheem Sterling to run. They'll give space to Nicholas Jackson to run. They'll give space to Mudryk and players like that who are, for the fees that they're quality players in terms of, I know the team isn't very good, but they still have good players. And as a result, players like Caicedo, or Conor Gallagher, that's all he does. He runs around and tackles. That's, give him time on the ball. He's useless, but he runs around and tackles. That's perfect. So he plays a system that's suited to their strengths. And as a result, that's why it works against the big teams, because they open up, so they leave more space. Whilst against the lower league teams that play a low block, they look hopeless. They look against Brentford, for example, they look completely hopeless. Like they couldn't score to save their lives, and against Nottingham also. So For me, it's
Do you think they'll get confidence from Monday night? You know, the big 1-0 at Spurs. No one gave them much of a chance. I
honestly
know.
no. I don't like. I saw Nicholas Jackson celebrate his hat trick, and even he knew that was crap. He barely celebrated scoring 3 goals. Like he's been needing a goal for ages. He barely said like I read reports about Raheem Sterling played well. I don't know what game the journalist watched. He was absolutely atrocious in that game.
They seemed to really struggle. They control the game. You know, it was like a basketball match at times.
It was horrendous. It was so
And
bad.
they could not. I mean, against 9 players, against Højbjerg and Eric Dyer, centre back, Royale at left back,
No, but-
players out of position.
No.
How many times they caught offside?
That was
incredible.
the lack. The thing that shocked me was the lack of precision and quality. All they needed was one pass over the top, and they were through. They were done. Like Spurs were dead in the water. Just one. The amount of passes that they overhit, and like the amount of times where Sterling was running across the wing, and all he had to do was cross it, like across the box, and he failed to. Either he crossed it too slow, without enough power, or he overhit it. Like. It was so bad. And the players and even the coach knew it. Even Poch after the game.
Do you think it's got lost in the game because of what happened? That them first 15, 20 minutes, they were all over the show and Spurs were ripping through them like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if they start like that against Man City, they're in big trouble.
Honestly, I think they're going to have a rude awakening. I know Man City, when they go to Stamford Bridge, they've lost under Pep. They have. And it's usually a very cagey game. It's usually like a 1 or 2-0 max, but it's rarely an easy game for Man City there. Like Man City don't go to Chelsea and win easily. Even last season when Chelsea were god awful, Chelsea were better. Chelsea were better for a substantial period of that game, and then Man City scored a goal in the last
beat them 1-0 twice last season.
Yeah, 1-0 twice. So Chelsea and Man City are always tight, you know. So, in my opinion, like I don't think it's gonna be, but I just think they're gonna be schooled. Like it's gonna be a 1 or 2-0, and they're gonna barely have any shots.
Like a death by possession.
Yeah, I
mean, one of the Chelsea players that's got a lot of praise is Cole Palmer. I mean, do you think it was a mistake that Man City let him go, or do you think, you know, how do you see that at the moment? Because definitely looks like there's a top player in the mick in there. I mean, I've watched him at times, and I do think he's got that star ability possibly in his game. But I mean, 45 million was a lot of money for a player that hadn't played a lot of top level games.
20 Premier League games.
20 Premier League, a lot of them probably off the bench. But
off the bench, yeah.
Do you think it was a mistake in Man City? Could this be one that maybe in a couple of years' time they'll rue, or how do you see it?
No chance, Garrett. Like they have, so he left, but they signed Jeremy Doku. So his position are Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva, De Bruyne, and Alvarez, all who are pretty much, I think, apart from Bernardo Silva and Alvarez is, I think, younger than him or the same age, I think. So I mean, Alvarez is levels above him. Doku, I love Doku. I think Doku's a sick signing. I think he's a better player than Cole Palmer. Grealish, I think he's also so. I just didn't see where Man City. I thought it was a masterstroke for Man City to be able to get their 45 million for him, and Chelsea do it again. They spend crazy money on a player that, I mean, 45 million for. Don't get me wrong, he looks good, he looks talented, but the reason why I think Guardiola sold him, and I've always said this, he's obsessed with this off the ball. If you watch him off the ball, Gareth, he's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, another player that's got a lot of praise. I mean, a lot of uproar. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. The England squad was announced, and he wasn't in the squad. I mean, you just rocked on him a few minutes ago. Was Raheem Sterling? I mean, do you think Sterling should have come into the England squad? I mean, should he have displaced someone like Rashford?
Yeah. You could argue that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They've both. I'll be honest here, I'm biased. I've never rated Sterling. I didn't rate him at Man City. I think he misses too many chances, and he has this level to him, which me and my brother, we always kind of argue. Odegaard has this. When Odegaard is bad, he is awful. Like he looks like a League Two player. He's like when De Bruyne is bad.
He's over 10 or 10 or 1 or 10.
Yeah, no. When De Bruyne is bad, he's still okay. Like you can see he's not playing that well, but he's still making the passes. He's still like building up. Like he still looks okay. Like he still looks secure. But when Odegaard and Sterling are bad, there's like when Sterling is bad, some of the shooting is absolutely horrendous. Like he misses
miscontrols the ball.
Misses clear-cut chances, makes the wrong decisions every time he goes into the box. Very similar to Marcus Rashford, by the way. So I don't know, like, would I have either? Like, I think maybe Sterling deserves to be in the England team more than Marcus Rashford, but I'm trying to think of a better left winger than those two that's English, that's played really well.
Do you play Foden on the left and Saka on the right?
No, I honestly think Foden is better in a 10.
Because I mean, it's pretty certain. Grealish on the left then?
Yeah, Grealish. Grealish played really well in the. I know it was young boys, but he played well in that game.
I think it's pretty set. I think that is the only position, to be honest, that's up for grabs. I really do.
Yeah,
I think Southgate got his 10. He's got 10 players packed. He's got Pickford in goal, Walker at right back. I think it's going to be Maguire and Stones if they're fit at centre back. I think he'll play. Well, maybe left back's up for. I'm not sure what he'll do there. He might play Trippier there because he tends to. Or I'm not sure what he'll do at left back. Left back's probably that left side is probably the two places up for grabs because I think for some reason he'll play Phillips in midfield with Rice and he'll play Bellingham and then he'll play Saka on the right and Kane as a striker. So I think left back and left winger are the only two spots that are up for grabs in this team.
No, Rice and Bellingham must be thinking, what the hell is this guy? Why is this guy playing?
If you were Southgate, if he was fit, would you play Rice, Bellingham, and Maddison in midfield?
Yeah, that would be sick. It wouldn't be very defensive, but I think Rice is such a good player.
I mean, a lot of people are saying that's what he should do, but from a coaching element, I know Callum's probably watching the podcast. He thinks that he probably agrees that Phillips is the answer, but he thinks a midfield of Rice, Bellingham, and Maddison would leave him too exposed.
Oh, I think Rice is so good, man. I think Rice can cover. I really do like Rice.
And I mean, it'll strike the fear of God on the teams if they have to worry about Bellingham.
Can you imagine Maddison and Bellingham?
Kane, Saka and Kane. I mean, you've got so much talent there.
Can you imagine? Saka, Kane, Bellingham. Like,
I mean, you could argue that Saka's probably not had his best form yet this season, but you look at Bellingham and Kane this season, they're having the season Maddison was having until he got injured. Rice has been Arsenal's best player, in my opinion. You know, you've got so many unformed players there that surely get them all into the team and see. I mean, see if England lose a game, if they lost the Euros final with Bellingham, Kane or Bellingham, Maddison, and Rice in midfield, and they lost the game 3-2. No England fan were criticised because they'd say, you know what, we've had to go. If they lose to France playing that way, we've had to go. What will happen is if they lose it 1-0, if they lose it 1-0, sitting back and not having a go, then you're going to get more criticism.
I just scared. I can't answer. Like, how can you play defensive when your weak point is probably your defense in terms of your center backs? I would say the only weak spot of England is they don't have a top class center back, in my opinion. Like a top, like a Van Dijk or a, right now it's looking like he's becoming one in Saliba or someone like a top class. Like, he's going to, because John Stones, I really like him, but I think he's too finesse. Like, I think sometimes he gets bullied. But so in my opinion, like, don't you want, and then not only that, look at the bench. You have Foden. You can have Ollie Watkins or Ivan. Like, the fact that Ivan Toney isn't, I know now he's banned, but how can you not take Ivan? He is such a good plan B. Like, when you're chasing the score, you have tired defenders that have been running around trying to deal with Kane or with anybody, and then you put on Ivan Toney to come terrorize you further. Like, or you put on Bowen, who's a ridiculous finisher in the box. He's so lethal. And
before we come back to the game, I mean, just on that, I mean, do you think England can win the Euros, or do you think in the end Southgate will cost them?
They should be. In my opinion, England have the deepest squad in the world.
Do you think Southgate will cost them, but with his tactics?
Yes. You know why? Because he's going to pick Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips and Conor Gallagher to go instead of Ben White, instead of James Ward-Prowse, instead of players that are good football players. Like, how can you justify picking Jordan Henderson when he's 33 and he plays in Saudi Arabia? I don't care if
Well, he's got
he
his
has to
favourites.
leave
I
it
think
in.
is a thing.
Yeah, it's just and they're gonna get to the semifinal. They're gonna play France, and he's gonna play cautious, and they're gonna lose, even though they have a better overall team than France, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. I mean, coming back to the game, I mean, Man City destroyed United. They've wrapped up their Champions League group. I know it wasn't the hardest group, very easy group, but they've wrapped it up in style. Um, and they put six past. I know Bournemouth, not a great side, but still scored six last week. I mean, have Man City up their level in the last few weeks? And I mean, looking at it now, I mean, can you see anyone going toe to toe with them if they're at their best?
I can only see one team, but I'm biased, so I can see Arsenal going toe to toe with them because we have beaten them this year. I thought we outplayed them in the game that we played against them. We nullified them specifically. We didn't like play some swashbuckling football and we terrorized them, but I thought we completely nullified them. So I think if Arsenal can keep their players fit, that is, if Partey comes back after January, if Timber, I'm reading Timber is way ahead of schedule. He's going to come back into training in December. So usually after a knee injury, it takes like a month to kind of get into the groove, get into full training. So they're expected to have Timber back in January, February-ish. So that's good news there. If we can keep our key players, fit and going, then I really do think we can push Man City. I really do believe that. I have to. I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I'm not going to just give up and say Man City are going to win. But I don't know. The difference, the big difference I see between us and them is even though they don't play as well, they're so lethal. They need from 5 chances, they'll score 3 goals, Gareth, or 4. And that's it. The game's done. Whilst Arsenal will need, like I don't know if you watched the game, Arsenal Sevilla. Did you watch the game?
What? I've heard what happened. No, but I actually watched the United game because it was crazy.
Oh yeah, I actually watched. I put on my laptop the United game and I was watching on TV. But difference is Martinelli and Saka, in my opinion, are a better left and right wing combination than Man City's, in my opinion. Like I think we have the best wing combination in the Premier League right now. But where they need to develop is Martinelli, Gareth. I think Juanlu needs to go to the hospital after that for like psychiatric help because he absolutely terrorized him. Like I think he went past him like 7 or 8 times. He got into the box like 7 or 8 times, but every single time he got into the box, the final ball was poor. If that was Man City, from those 7 or 8,
I think James is having a joke. He's saying Arsenal have a really good goalkeeper.
I think we do. I think David Raya is much better than Ramsdale. I think the criticism of him has been harsh. It's a new team. It's a new system for him coming from Brentford, and I just think it's going to take time. But I told you before, Gareth, Ramsdale's done. And if I was Arsenal, I would sell him because Chelsea are going to want to buy a goalkeeper because
Do you go for Ivan Toney in January and take a risk?
Exactly. Take the money from Ramsdale and get Ivan Toney or a midfielder.
From a business point of view, do you think it's risky signing him in January? Where he's been out for, you better wait into the summer and sign him, seeing how he comes back.
No, because if he can take his time. He can do a little preseason for 2-3 weeks because if you checked in January, we only have 3 games. We have 2 Premier League games and we have
FA
one
Cup games as well.
Yeah, we have 1 FA Cup, so it's 3 games in the whole month. Give him a mini preseason for 2-3 weeks to get into shape. Play him in the FA Cup, which is at the end of the month. No, Tony would be absolutely lethal in this Arsenal team, man. The physicality, he's. I love Jesus, but Tony's he's in the box. He's lethal. He can be.
I agree. I think he's the best available out there.
Oh my! And if he's available from what I'm reading Brentford won 100 million. They know it's not happening. He has a year. He has a year and a half left on his deal. That's not happening because they know in the summer he's going to have a year left, so they're going to have to sell him.
If he comes on, if he was to come on and hit the ground running, I think that will be a game changer.
If we sign Ivan Toney in the summer,
but I mean that's a big ask considering he's been out since May. That is a big ask.
I mean, it's a big ask, but then you can say he's fresh. At least he's not going to be injured. He's going to be raring to go. And I'm sure he's training. I'm sure he's training.
Mm.
So it's not like
He
he's
might
gonna
back. He
come
might
in.
back himself to score a few goals.
Of course, and you know what? You know what I love also about him? He's a sick penalty taker, Gareth. You have no idea
Good.
how long it's been since Arsenal have had, maybe since Van Persie, since Arsenal have had a bona fide penalty taker, man.
Mm.
And he's gonna come in and he's gonna be the big man. I would love Tony. I would absolutely love Tony.
Final thoughts on Chelsea Man City before we go into the rest of the games this weekend. I mean,
Final thoughts?
what did Chelsea have to do to get a result on Sunday? I mean, personally, from I don't really see Chelsea as a big threat to top four. So I mean, if we
No.
can somehow get a result tomorrow against Wolves, I'm sure you'll be looking at it as well as from a Chelsea view. I mean, you'd love to see Chelsea take points off them, is what I mean. So I mean, what did Chelsea have to do to get a result?
They have to get lucky, that's for sure. They have to get lucky where maybe Man City don't have their best game. Their goalie has to put in a very good performance, in my opinion. He's going to be making some saves.
He's not been convincing, has he?
Yeah, but most importantly, I think they need to defend well. In terms of, I watched their defense, and I'm really not. I've watched him a number of times. The new signing, Dizazi.
Oh,
he's
car crash.
Yeah. I'm not. He's really clumsy on the ball. He's slow. Like, it's just, I'm worried that he's gonna he makes clangers almost every game. He makes one mistake which leads to a chance. So I'm worried about that.
I think I suppose it's hard. He dropped Jackson, but I mean, I think he bring Mudryk on for his pace in the break, maybe.
Yeah, he's gonna play pragmatic. Poch is gonna play. He's gonna play solid at the back, and then he's gonna break. So, which does suit the weaknesses of Man City, because let's be honest, Man United, although they've been poor over the years, the reason why they've beaten Man City has always been counterattack Rashford goal.
I think as well, as you said, all end points were important, but I think the one thing Chelsea really have to be is when they get a chance, they have to be ruthless.
Yeah, which is not happening, Gareth.
Which is one thing you don't associate with Chelsea team, but
let's get into Nicholas Jackson. Yeah,
exactly. Let's get into the predictions for the weekend. It all kicks off tomorrow at 12:30. I know everyone's going to be watching in the hope that Spurs this season completely unravels. It's a big game for Spurs. Wolves, were going well there, but suffered that shock defeat to Sheffield United last week. And I mean, Gary O'Neill again. I'd probably say Wolves have been on the wrong end of VAR more times than anybody this season. So again, it's been a week of bad luck for Spurs. It wouldn't surprise me if Wolves get their due a bit of luck. Maybe it'll come this week. But Spurs need to make sure that it doesn't become that type of game and try and put Wolves away early. But as you said, it's very difficult to go to Wolves and put 3 or 4 past them. We know Gary O'Neill's a very organised coach. And I think to his credit, Gary O'Neill he's kind of pragmatic, but his teams do carry a threat on the counter. It's not just sit back and defend. It's with a purpose, the counter-attack. But as you said, we net out their best players missing. So that probably evens it up a bit for me. Spurs missing players, Wolves missing Netos, just as important as Maddison, for example. So, interesting game. I think it'll be a fascinating watch tactically as well. How do you see it go?
I'm going to go for a 1-1. I'm going to go for a draw. I think Wolves are whenever I watch them, I'm like, they have really good players. Like I'd love, Pedro Neto, Mateus Cunha he looks
Pedro
like
Neto would be a great deputy for Saka, like a rotation option, wouldn't he?
Oh my God, Pedro Neto would be absolutely sick. Like he's crazy. I love him, but in my opinion,
he's an R player that picks up a lot of knocks and injuries. So
yeah, that's why I don't think Arsenal are going to sign him, because of his injury proneness. But are going to try and sign him. I mean, but for me, I just think this game is Wolves. If you watch their games, like for example, Newcastle, they completely outplayed Newcastle that game. Got screwed over by the ref, I agree, but they missed so many chances in that game. And that's a common thing. Man United, first game of the season, they absolutely battered Man United at Old Trafford. They should have been 3 or 4-0 up. Easily. They missed, and they just don't have.
Even last week against first half against Sheffield United, they should have been out of sight.
Yeah, they just don't have. Ever since David Luiz broke the skull of Raul Jimenez. They haven't had a bona fide striker like a good striker that can finish chances. So that's the thing. If they score, Liverpool first 45 minutes, they battered Liverpool.
Yeah.
Callum will know. He will tell you that Liverpool
Mm.
game they should have been 2-3-0 up in the first
They also beat Man City at home as well.
Yeah, they beat Man City at home. They should have beaten Newcastle if it wasn't for the ref changing the game and them missing a ton of chances. So they play really well against big teams. They play well at home in general. Villa, they should have beaten Villa. They drew with Villa. Villa scored in I think
they were
scored
1-0 for a long time.
They were 1-0 and Villa scored but they were the better team. So every single big team that has gone there, they have actually played better than. If you look at it, maybe not
and
Liverpool.
They also seem to start very strong.
They always start. Yeah,
Man City scored the first goal. Liverpool scored the first goal. Villa scored the first goal. Newcastle. So they came back against Newcastle as well, even when they were down. So it's a difficult game. It really is. But
1-1.
Do you know what? I fancy Spurs to nick it.
Really? Against Wolves?
2-1.
Yeah, I mean, if they miss chances, you have Son. Son doesn't miss.
That's what I'm thinking. Son could be the difference.
Yeah, Son doesn't miss. But they have good man. I think one of the most underrated, this is a side topic a little bit, but one of the most underrated players over the last 5 to 6 years, Craig Dawson, man. What a defender. He is so underrated.
Shoots Wolves as well when they have to defend a lot. Shoots that. I actually think someone like Eric Dyer would do a good job for Wolves.
No, and
have to worry about balls on behind.
Yeah, and just to find them before we move on, Gary O'Neill, you said it. I really like him as a coach. I've been really impressed with his tactical know-how, with his coach. Bournemouth. Look at Bournemouth now when he left. If his name was Gary Onesta, I'm telling you, this guy would be the hottest flavor of the week. It's just because his name is Gary O'Neill and he wears a tracksuit and isn't the best looking. That's why he. Yeah, can you hear me?
So I can hear you. So Stefan's going 1-1. I'm going 2-1 Spurs. Arsenal take on Burnley at 3 o'clock. The first of the 3 o'clock games are going to preview. Callum's just asking here before we're on the Arsenal subject. What was your thoughts on Arteta's media meltdown?
I mean, Callum should be accustomed to it because Klopp does it almost every single week. So Callum, you should know. You should. I'm sorry.
Callum's already messaged me for Liverpool, Arsenal, December. He's looking to do a podcast, us three.
Oh yeah, I'm down. I'm not looking forward to it because we don't do very well there. But yeah, I'm down. No, I completely in terms of just the press conference. Just to go quickly, I completely agree with it. If you look at Arsenal over the last 2 years, we've been the most screwed over by VAR in terms of the apologies. If we're talking facts, Arsenal have received the most amount of PGMOL apologies. And if you look at the decisions that have cost us, I mean, some of them weren't even mistakes. They were incompetence. The Brentford goal where they didn't check the offside. How did that ref not get sacked after the game? How did the VAR guy not get that was just pure incompetence.
Interestingly, there was no apology for this. So, I mean, what was your opinion on it? Do you think
it was a joke? Trust me, Gareth. If Arteta had not gone out and done the press conference, 100% there would have been an apology. How that was not, forget the ball being out of play. I disagree. That was inconclusive. You couldn't see it exactly. But how that was not a foul I read the law. A foul is when you impede a player from making a natural football movement.
Did you see the Napoli goal disallowed there the other night? Same incident?
Anywhere no, for me, if let's say he did it more discreetly, right, where he does this and he does it more discreetly, he doesn't he extended his arms. So he pretty much, I don't know if you know the exercise, he did a dip. He did a triceps dip on him, extended his arms, pushed him down. So Gabriel Magalhaes had to be a world Olympic heavyweight lifter for him to move him out of the way and jump. So he's never doing that. So he impedes his movement of him jumping. It's a clear foul. It's obvious. There's intent. I don't know how that was. And just the reply after that, their reply about the incident. Of course, focusing on the fact that Kai Havertz should have gotten a red card to kind of, rub more salt. It was extremely petty for me. It was extreme.
Well,
It was obvious.
Havertz one was a 50-50. I think.
I agree. Havertz one was orange.
I think if he had been given a red card, it wouldn't have been overturned.
No,
but I mean, Bruno Guimaraes could have had a
but
red card.
the statement about Bruno Guimaraes,
he could have had a red card, and he could have had 2 yellow cards.
Forget that.
He made that many. He made that many fouls.
One of my good friends is a rugby player. In rugby, that's a red card because it's off the ball and you're hitting him with your elbow or forearm. That's a red card in rugby. And these jokers are saying in the review that he didn't use it as a weapon. Are you serious? He literally ran at Jorginho, saw that Jorginho was had his back to him, lifted his forearm, and then hit him across.
Callum saying he thought it was a foul, but the problem you've got is it was a subjective decision, not an offside one where it was a clear and obvious error.
How is a person extending his arms, clearly impeding him and pushing him down, not an objective, by the letter of the law, that is an objective foul. He is impeding Gabriel from doing a natural sports movement. So I don't know. If that had happened to Klopp, Gareth, oh my God, Klopp would have had a parliamentary inquiry into the actual game. So please, yeah.
I mean, coming under the game, Burnley, just, they're trying to play the same way still. I mean, you could call it stupidity, but I suppose Company's, I think Company's got the backing of the Burnley board. Even if they get relegated, he's going to be there, and they're going to build to come back up again. Well or not, that happens. But I mean, I really think any team that's trying to take Arsenal on, like this PSV tried to do it, Burnley's going to try and do it. It's not going to be like the Fulham game where they put 11. I mean, the Burnley's going to try and attack Arsenal, and this could be messy. I mean, I'll kick it off. I think Arsenal's goal difference is going to take an increase in this week. I think it'll be somewhere to Sheffield United. I'll go for I know that was 5. I think I'll go for 4-0.
Man, I'm going to go for, because of the injuries, I would agree with you. I'm going to go for a 4-0. If we had all our team, I would have gone for 6-7. I'm serious. Because Burnley went to Man City, Gareth, and tried to play football. Tried to play expansive football. Like don't get me wrong, I admire it, but Burnley remind me so much of Norwich. They really do. They play amazing football in the Championship, destroy everybody, have good young players, then they come to the Premier League and try to play exactly the same way in every game, and they get absolutely battered every game.
Yeah.
And they get relegated. It's the same.
So 4-0 ones. Crystal Palace, Everton. Can't see this being a pretty watch. But
I disagree.
You know what? Everton are playing slightly more. I think maybe confidence has come back, and Dice maybe trying. I think if anything in this game, Everton will be the team that get on the ball and play. Palace are very, very defensive. I mean, even at 2-0 down against Spurs, they just did not try to come out and play. So I mean, how do you see this going? Very tight game.
I'm going easy 2-0 win for Everton. I've been very impressed with the way that Callum is going to love to hear this.
I think Everton are the better team. But Palace.
If you watch them, go watch their games. Everton create a lot of chances. They're one of the best, creative sides in the league, even though you wouldn't think it with Daesh. If you watch them against Brighton, they were the better team. They should have won that game. They were the better team by far. Like Brighton, apart from their goal at the end, they didn't do anything in the whole game. They completely dominated and should have beaten West Ham by more. They beat West Ham away to West Ham, so that was impressive. So
away from home, haven't they? They beat Brentford. They beat West Ham, as you say. They've had some good results on the road.
No, they beat Brentford at Brentford. They beat them 3-1. So I honestly think they're slowly getting the players are getting more confidence. You see some of their key players that were. Calvert-Lewin has been super injury prone over the last 2 years. He's getting back into shape. He's looking better. I really like their midfield. Onana's a very good player. I've always rated Jack Harrison. I think he's a good Premier League player. I think some of their signings have been very, very astute. I think their defense is a perfect Sean Dyche defense. He pretty much has his Burnley defense again from the first time he entered the league. He has Michael Keane and what was his name?
Tarkowski or the Burnley player.
And I've been pleasantly surprised by their left back, the Ukrainian kid. Yeah, I think next summer I think he's gonna be sold to a big I think he's gonna go to like maybe a Villa, maybe even I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Spurs, to be honest. You need like a second like a backup left back in my opinion. He's a very solid left back.
So
I really like
I think Everton, like you say, I think they'll have a lot of the ball, but I just think Palace are so stubborn they'll get a point. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Another big game at 3:00. Man United against Luton. All the pressure on Man United, Stefan. Surely
blockbuster.
not. I mean, it's a feast or famine. United, they haven't drew one game all season in any
Gareth,
competition, so they either won or get beat.
Gareth, can you imagine the atmosphere if they draw or even lose? Oh my God, that's gonna be bad. If they,
I mean,
if
Luton, to
they
their
lose,
credit, give Liverpool a really tough game last week, but different game away from home, wasn't it?
no, but I honestly against Liverpool. I don't know what Callum thinks. I know Darwin Núñez, was. I mean, I really like him as a player, but Jesus Christ, man, work on your finishing, please. Like, it's embarrassing at times. But like, I was really impressed with Luton in the second half. I thought they were the better team in the second half. I don't know what Callum thinks. I've told you before, Gareth. Their spine is weak. Once you go away from Allison, Van Dijk is getting older. He's not the same level as he was before. And I just think that midfield, man, the Liverpool midfield, I'm sure Callum will disagree with me. Liverpool midfield made Ross Barkley look like prime Xavi against him. He was the best midfield player on the pitch in that game. It wasn't like I was super disappointed. And Liverpool will always have their chances because they have quality attacking players, but I just don't think they have enough control of games. But going back to Man United and Luton, I honestly think this is going to finish 1-1. I really do.
Oof.
I think Man United are going to screw this up. I do.
First draw of the season.
Yeah, I actually can Luton win? No. It's Old Trafford. They always get decisions there. They always get I don't know. If Luton play defensive football, like super, which I think they will, they're not going to be stupid, and like give them space to run on the counter. It's going to be a real tough game because Luton, one thing they have going for them, they're the biggest team in the Premier League. So any set piece they have, if Man United play with Lindelof or with Johnny Evans, who are not, let's be honest, physically dominant, Luton have some big guys that can really take advantage of that.
I mean, if this was any of them teams outside of that bottom four, I would struggle to back United in this game, but I just think them bottom four teams are so weak. United will have enough, so I'll go for a 2-0 United 1.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Callum saying he actually agrees with you, Stefan. He says McAllister or Endo as a pivot is a disaster.
Yeah. It's not like McAllister doesn't
hold that thought because we will come on to Liverpool when we get to them here. Bournemouth Newcastle's a 5:30 game, not the most appetizing 5:30 game. But I mean Newcastle, I think very similar to Liverpool in a way. They're very, very good at home and they're very, very tough to beat at home. But away from home, it's not the same story. I mean, but Bournemouth are dreadful. I mean, they just so open. I don't think the manager change has worked at all. And I think he's under serious pressure going into this international break. Newcastle are decimated with injuries, but I still fancy them to beat Bournemouth. I don't know how you feel about it.
Honestly, I think Bournemouth, I know they haven't gotten results, but I think the last few weeks they've done well. Honestly, I think they've improved. I like some of the players.
6 last week. Yeah.
Sorry?
They conceded 6 last week.
I know they conceded 6, but if you watch that game before they had conceded, they played quite well. I mean, they collapsed.
Once the first goal went on the floodgates.
Yeah, they played. But then the week before they won 3-1, I think. I forgot who. I think it was Fulham that they played. So
they beat Burnley, wasn't it?
Fulham?
Burnley.
Yeah. Oh my. Okay. Maybe I should take my words back then. Okay. But I don't get why Bournemouth are this bad because I like a lot of their players. I really like their left back. I
just think they're too open, Stefan. If somebody Burnley,
I agree. They play with pretty much a suicidal high line.
If you look at it right, I think the Bournemouth have better players than Luton, but Luton they're very organized, and then with the counter attack, whereas Bournemouth and Burnley are trying to open up. Luton are being kind of like, if you watch Luton, a lot of the games they've even lost have been tight because they've been
super tight.
organized, and that gives you half a chance. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you're asking me, out of any of them teams, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, Burnley, and Luton, who's the most likely to stay up at the minute? I would say it's Luton, and I actually think they've probably
really Luton.
I do,
really?
And I actually think Luton have the least quality out of them four. But
Easily, Luton have no.
I think they're playing a smarter game. They're giving themselves half a chance in games.
I mean, Luton had Andrew Townsend, man. I didn't know
and Ross Barkley, two players that are finished.
Ross Barkley at least is like 28, 29. Like, I didn't know. I thought Andrew Townsend now has a radio show. I didn't know he continued to play football. I'm being honest, but I mean, obviously they signed him. But no, I agree with you in terms of Bournemouth are super naive. But I just think Newcastle looks shattered, Gareth. They look. I mean, they were really up for it against Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, but let's be honest. That game was a draw. Arsenal didn't play well, but Newcastle were worse than us. They had less chances, less shots, less possession.
Struggled away in Dortmund too. They were very poor.
And Dortmund completely took them apart. Dortmund should have beaten them more than that scoreline, in my opinion. They had more chances, and Newcastle barely created anything in both games. But so they look shattered. Like, they look really tired. They look leggy. And going away to Bournemouth, the crowd is pretty much in your face there. Like, the atmosphere is good there. I really think Bournemouth could pull something. I really do. And not only that, Newcastle have a bit of a injury crisis. Yeah, Wilson, from what I'm reading, is not going to play. He's out, so they don't have
Gordon for a model.
Yeah, they don't have like a number 9. And if you looked at Bournemouth center backs, they're massive. They're massive. Like, the Ukrainian guy looks like a rugby player. Like, Jesus, like, he's massive. Like, all of them are huge. So Anthony Gordon against them in the air, that's not going to work.
How do you see it going?
I'm gonna go for a draw here, because I watched Newcastle play away to Wolves. They were really poor, and their away form this season has not been good, Gareth. It really hasn't.
It hasn't been good, but I think Newcastle will maybe struggle after this international break because they're going to have tougher games. But I think they'll be okay. I think they'll win this too.
You think?
Yeah, I think they'll be okay in this.
You really don't rate Bournemouth, huh?
I think they're just too open, and I think they'll be exposed. Moving on to Sunday, a lot of games on Sunday due to the Europa League games on Thursday night. Villa absolutely flying at home, very similar to Newcastle. Again, not as good away from home, but very solid at home.
Emery, like, that's personified. Arsenal, he had an amazing home record. Away, not very good. They're similar.
Fulham aren't pulling up any trees, but they'll be well organized.
Fulham are terrible.
They'll be well organized, but I think Villa will be too strong at home again.
As you know, my second team is Villa, so I rarely miss games unless they're being played at the same time as Arsenal. But this is such a game where, after watching Villa for the last 2 or 3 years, like, this is a game where they lose. Like, the games where you think, okay, Villa are gonna win this easily.
I think they're either very good or very poor.
Yeah, and Fulham is exactly the one where Villa, like Nottingham, everybody thought they would destroy Nottingham because Nottingham haven't been as good the last few weeks, and they go to Nottingham and lose 2-0, and they look absolutely.
And they were well beat. They were well
beat. They were atrocious, and then the second goal. Emi Martinez, terrible goalkeeping there. I don't know. That was really bad. But just the whole team played poorly in that game. So with Villa, that's the thing. Like, at home, the thing that gives me confidence and why I think they're gonna win. I agree with you. I always have, when I see Fulham or usually a team in bad form going to Villa, they win 1-0 or something, or it's Villa screw it up, or so that's why I'm a bit nervous saying, oh, it's Steph. But Emery, that's his thing. His home form at every club he's been is super good. So I think Villa should win this, because Fulham can't score. They don't score goals. Ever since they sold Mitrovic, they're really poor up front. So yeah, I'm gonna go for 2-0 Villa.
2-0 Villa. I agree. 2-0 Villa. Brighton against Sheffield United. Brighton, as you say, not on a great run. but probably the perfect game to be playing at home. I know they got a good one last week, Sheffield, first one on the board, but you just can't see anything other than Brighton won.
I'm worried a little bit about Brighton because they look a little bit like Newcastle at the moment. They look really leggy. They look really, really leggy. So I don't know. Like they look tired, Gareth. So I think they'll have more than enough to beat Sheffield. But I'm being honest with you. You said the team that is most likely to stay up is Luton out of all them. I think the team that's played the best in terms of football, in terms of they've been unlucky, has been Sheffield, in my opinion, from those four poor teams. Sheffield against Man United, they outplayed Man United, got really unlucky to lose. Man City, they had them on the ropes at 1-1, and Man City needed a great goal from Rodri to win that game 2-1. So yeah, Sheffield. I mean, they lost.
Spurs scored 2 late goals against them as well. They beat them.
Yeah, against you guys. Let's be honest. They played well against you. They were leading you. So they're not as easy as people think, and it's just these type of teams that haven't had the experience of Europe. You see Arsenal. Like Arsenal were out of like big European football for like a year or two, and we struggled last year with Europa League. We never replicated the form that we had in the league, and even though this season in the Champions League we have looked good, especially at home, but it's not the same I would say vibe. We struggle kind of to transition as well as Man City do, for example. So I think Brighton don't like. I watched them against Fulham, Gareth. They look super tired, man. Sorry, against was it Fulham?
They played Fulham the week before. They drew 1 each, and they drew
again Everton. Sorry. They look tired. Everton played better than them.
That's the games they were winning last year. Them 2 games, though, they wouldn't have. So
they look tired.
But they did get a good result last night. I watched that game away to Ajax, but Ajax are very, very poor. Them all.
I'm gonna go this one. This is gonna be. I'm gonna go 2-1 Brighton for this.
3-1 Brighton.
3-1,
Evan Ferguson just signed his new contract. I think he might get a couple of goals.
I saw Eze signed a new contract to Palace. What an idiot.
I would imagine it's probably somebody Elise. It must be a release clause on there. Only way.
I hope so, because I mean, did you not learn from your fellow Palace player Zaha? He lost out on any big move because
I have a feeling there's a release clause on there, and that's the only way he would have signed it.
Let's see.
Liverpool, Brentford, 2:00. I mean, we spoke about Liverpool a few times tonight. We can speak about them now. I mean, very, very strong at home again, but away from home not been as strong. They've dropped points in games. You would expect them to win. Away to Brighton they drew, away to Luton they dropped points. So
no, you wouldn't expect them to win at Brighton. Come on.
No, Brighton, I expected them to win that game still.
Really? Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So and the performance, not just the results, the performances haven't been as strong away from home. I don't think, as they have been. I mean, at home, every game they've played at home, they've won by at least 2 goals already. So they've been pretty strong at home, and that is a continuing factor under Klopp, bar that COVID season where he had that awful run. They have been very, very strong at home under Jurgen Klopp. So I mean, Brentford will be sticky because if there's any team outside of the big teams that can probably go there and make it difficult, and they're very well organized.
And they play on the counter.
They've had some good results over the years. Brentford, we went to Man City and won last year. They've already went to Chelsea and won this year. Maybe not seen as a big skill, but still a good. They've done it a few times in the last couple of years. So Brentford, outside of the big teams, are the best at getting results against the big teams. There's no doubt about it. But Liverpool at home are very strong. So how do you see this going, Stefan?
I'm gonna think with in terms of, because me, I don't rate Liverpool this year, but at Anfield they're really good. Like at Anfield they're really good. They play much better than away. So the thing is, though, Brentford are the perfect team to play Liverpool. The perfect team. They're gonna defend deep, focus on set pieces, and play on the counter attack through the wings where they're strong, and that worries me because you have Tsimikas at left back. Who plays at left back for Liverpool now? Can Callum tell me? It's not.
I was Tsimikas, but I think it could be Gomez too. They've been rotating them. I think.
Oh my God! If Gomez,
well, I think the problem is Tsimikas has had a few poor games. They've had to bring Gomez on.
Well, you know what? If Gomez is playing, you know my opinion, Gareth. Brentford have a huge chance to win.
Callum thinks Brentford actually might get a result.
Hey, Callum, I've been reading Endo has been horrendous. Is that
Well,
true?
I think the problem is McAllister suspended for this game, so they have to bring Endo on.
Okay. That's big in terms of going forward because Endo is nowhere near as good on the ball as McAllister. And you know what I've noticed? Last few games, Soboslai has not been very good. I thought he was a complete passenger against Luton. I thought he was very poor in that game. So I don't know. Like the thing with Liverpool is they haven't played a really good game completely in the whole season. Where what they have is, if you remember, like you gave the example of Brighton, Liverpool, right? Brighton absolutely peppered them the first 40 minutes. Liverpool then had a 10-15 minute spell where they scored 2 goals. The same with Wolves. Wolves were by far the better team in the first half. Then Liverpool, right after the first half,
Martin saying talk of Trent playing the number
oh
6
my
role.
God, that would be an absolute disaster.
Callum says he can't wrap his head around the Endo signing. He's levels below the
I
standard
mean,
required.
he was a panic buy, Callum. It was, you panicked because
I
you
think,
didn't
as you
sign.
say, this will be a difficult game. But I think Liverpool will have enough, and I'm going to go
Yeah,
for
I
two,
think I think
two,
I think
2-1
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 Liverpool. I think it's gonna be tight. Liverpool are gonna score. They're gonna go for it. Brentford after that, and then Liverpool are gonna catch them on the counter at the end, and they'll win 2-0.
The final 2 o'clock game, which is live on
Oh
Sky.
my God! Oh my
West Ham
God!
against Nottingham Forest. I mean, West Ham are having a bit of an up and down season. Winning and then losing, or mixed form with Europa League, and they've beat Arsenal in the cup, and then they lose to Everton at home. 2-1 up last week against Brentford, and I heard the West Ham fans last week were furious with Moyes' tactics in the second half. Lost the game 3-2. I mean, it feels like we're on the tapping point with Moyes. He seems to be under pressure and he gets a result. But the West Ham fans aren't buying into this. They're not happy with the style of play. Forest, who are pretty poor away from home. West Ham have lost to Everton at home, so it's not beyond the realms for Forest. But I don't think their league form's been that great. West
No,
Ham,
yeah, no, Gareth. I'll be honest. I've watched West Ham. Look, I was like, because I read the same reports as you. Like, I read West Ham fans aren't happy with Moyes, and I'm like, he's won you a cup. He's progressing in the League Cup. He always goes hard for the cups. Like, you've done really well. You've become a really good cup team.
they want to play the West Ham way, whatever that is.
No, wait. They've become a really good cup team. And then I watched him against Arsenal, against us, and against Olympiacos, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this football is so bad. Like, it's so, like, I watched him yesterday against.
I watched both of them games. I watched the Brighton game. I watched the Arsenal game, the West Ham Arsenal game in the cup. But I actually watched yesterday. I watched the Ajax Brighton game, and then the West Ham Olympiacos game.
Did you watch West Ham? They played
very slow. I mean, unless Paqueta does something, you don't really see who can break it.
Or the opposition makes a mistake, and then Bowen is lethal in the.
Bowen's a lethal finisher, but I have to say, I think this Paqueta boy is a special footballer. He's a real talent.
Yeah, there's a reason why Man City wanted to buy him first instead of
Nunez.
He is really good. I don't like his play acting antics, that's for sure. I don't like that about him, but he's a super talented player. But I watched that game and I was like, I kind of realized why West Ham fans have such a short leash, because the football is just.
I think this is the game. I think these are the games they're struggling because they're expected to dominate the ball against a team like Forest, and they can't do it.
No, it's this game is going to be hilarious because each team is going to try and not have the ball because they barely have possession in general. I think these are both probably the two teams with the lowest amount of possession. Maybe Luton or any of the kind of the relegation threat teams.
I have to say though, in Forest's case, I think. Steve Cooper, to his credit, was trying to do what Burnley were doing last year, and he said, "You know what, we're not good enough," and he kept them up playing this sort of pragmatic style.
I do not
have to give him credit because they would be in the championship if it wasn't for his tactics change.
I don't know how Steve Cooper did not win Manager of the Year last year. The guy had to deal with a churn of 23 new players, changing players every single game where. One comes in where he has to do tech. He is a brilliant coach, super underrated coach again because he's English. Because his name isn't some fan. It's Steve Cooper. It's a very kind of average Joe type name. So
Yeah.
like he's a brilliant coach. I don't know the way he managed to take Nottingham, because if you remember in the first 2 months, I think they lost almost every game they played in the first two
Bottom of
months.
the league.
The way he managed to take them up and keep them up, I quite comfortably by the end. He kept them up with like 3 or 4 games to go, from what I remember.
Yeah.
He was the coach of the year in my opinion, like easily. Like which coach is going to be able to deal with 23 new players? Wenger used to say that he would never sign more than 3 players because it would destabilize the team. This guy had to deal with 23 new players.
Yeah.
Amazing.
How do you see this game going? I mean, I know that it mightn't be classified as a big shock, but I am. There's always a shock. There's always a funny result every weekend. And looking at these games, I think this is it. I think Forest go there and like a 1-0
Yeah, it's gonna be definitely, Gareth. After this game, you're definitely gonna add this to the worst game that you've ever watched this year. That's for sure. This game is gonna be absolutely awful. Like both teams are not gonna want to play. They're both gonna want to sit deep and play on the counter. It's gonna be a battle between which team wants the other team to actually have the ball. So it's gonna be awful. It's gonna be an awful. I'm gonna go for a 1-0 win Forest.
I agree. The final game before the international break, 4:30, also live on Sky. Chelsea, Man City. We sort of previewed the game earlier, but we didn't actually give our predictions. I mean, Stefan, I'll let you go first on this one. How do you see this game going?
I think Chelsea are gonna have a rude awakening that they're back after beating Spurs 4-1. I think Man City are gonna school them, and it's not gonna be a big win, but it's gonna be one of those games where Man City are gonna win either 1 or 2-0, and it's gonna be one where you're like, damn, they're so much better than us. Like we weren't even close to equalizing. Like where the score line doesn't illustrate the gap in quality and just in the game and the dominance. I'm gonna go for a 1-0 or I'm gonna go for a 2-0 win over Chelsea.
I actually think the same. I think it'll be a 2-0, but it'll be like a 70-30 possession tactics job
Yeah,
where they have all.
it'll be Chelsea.
I don't think it'll be a great watch because City will just dominate.
No, City are gonna score 1 goal and then just keep the ball. And
that is the Premier League predictions for the weekend. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Stefan for coming on. Long show, but a lot of people watching, a lot of people interacting. It was great to see that, and great to have Stefan back on. Stefan, I'm sure we'll have you on soon, but we'll definitely put you in for that Christmas podcast special with Callum, Liverpool, Arsenal. I think that's definitely the 23rd of December, so we'll probably do it on the 21st or the 22nd. Big game at Christmas. Could possibly be Liverpool and Arsenal as well, being Man City's biggest challenger, so it'll definitely be a big game. If you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. Stefan, enjoy your weekend. I'm sure you'll have no issues. I'm sure you'll have no issues tomorrow. Beating Burnley. So you probably put your feet up and enjoy the rest of the games over the weekend. But thanks for coming on. Pleasure as always.
Thank you so much, Gareth, for having me on. And good luck tomorrow. And you're gonna need it. So it's gonna be tough.
The final word from Stefan. Stefan, thanks very much.
See you, man.